Hello, hola, and buenas, buenas. Welcome back to La Cuna Galaxiana, a podcast made with love. On today's episode, we'll be joined by the LA Times' Kevin Baxter, also known as the Panda from Corner of the Galaxy, who will be here to help us take a look at the Galaxy's upcoming weekend home game against Minnesota United, and also take a look at the Galaxy's season so far. Plus, the last World Cup friendlies have been played, and we are just 2 months away from the tournament kicking off. All that and more coming up on La Cuna Galaxiana. DJ, you know what to do. G's up.
Yeah, let's get it started with a new year, new me. Cuna Galaxiana still reporting on the news feed, yeah. And you know who it be, the 6 stars from the jersey, putting work in the league. Word on the street, we rip teams immaculately. We see the players come and go, but I'm forever a G. And you can catch me yelling tactics on the field when I leave. Get it together like I'm Vanney when I'm giving a speech. Back to the pitch, score goals, dribbling tricks. I heard a transfer window rumor, let me see who it is. I got statistics on the player, puzzle pieces that fit. Con este show que es tan bilingüe que tu papi lo ve. Rápido pues, hablando de este club otra vez. En las buenas y en las malas, we got love for the crest, love for LA. Let's get it started, light up the stage. Every week on Monday night I'm tuning into the place. Yeah, you know what it is. Es La Cuna Galaxiana, 4th season, Rob Ananda. And my name, ya te lo sabes.
Hey, welcome back to La Cuna Galaxiana. Thank you so much for being here with us for another episode. Hey, we haven't gotten canceled, and I'm one of your co-hosts as usual, Rob Halon. You can find my written work at the Sporting Tribune, and you can find me online at El Escudero de LA. And I'm here, so you know my co-host is here. Nadita Queriana, el papá de Natita y el yerno guapo. Hey, man, we got a good guest today. Hey.
Yeah, we got him back. The Panda, we got the Panda for you all, so that should be fun. I know he's been dropping bars over there at Corner of the Galaxy. Now he gets to go, sneak out of the house a little bit and go on this side of the tracks and hang out with us. Hang out with two knuckleheads.
He was telling me the other day, man. He's like, hey. He's like, hey, I go where I please. I'm like the wind. I was like, okay, Bax.
Okay. Like I'm available for hire. But no, so that should be fun. We haven't talked to him in a while, at least on this show. So should be fun to get his latest thoughts. And I mean, this is a big stretch for the Galaxy. It's got a lot of implications. We've been talking about it the last few shows. So excited to get in the thick of it with K-Bax.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I mean, we spoke to Greg and Justin Hack today in the lead up to this match in the presser, and Greg said as much. I mean, this game is huge in points. I mean, just considering who they're playing and where they're at points wise, and just by virtue of them being on the road now, going away to play in the next, I believe, 3 MLS matches. So they need to jump off this April in a good way, and then they gotta play lights out in front of Landy, too. So there is that. Guys, we do gotta have an excellent show for you here today. Not because of us, because we're two knuckleheads, but Hibax is gonna come drop those bars, like Kananda said. And when you think of soccer coverage here or sports coverage in general here in Los Angeles, I mean, K-Bax is one of those people that you think about. So, but you're only gonna know when people like him drop by if you subscribe to the show. I mean, unless someone is actively telling you hey, this week I'm and that could be us, and all you got to do is subscribe or hit the like button, or like the homie Rally G says, hit the likes, not la pipa. Remember, kids, say no to drugs. And we also have super chats available. Ananda, I don't know if you knew about this, but we have super chats now. And if you got something to get off your chest, I mean, me and Ananda talk a lot on the show, and it should be like a community thing. You guys should get stuff off your chest too. And I know you guys do in chat, but sometimes you got to just really get something off your chest, and we're good with that. Ananda, hey, I heard this rumor that we're on Blue Sky.
That's your right.
Is that true?
We are.
Jeez, look at that. Unsubstantiated rumors that we're on Blue Sky. You guys go check it out. So anyway, guys, we have a couple of shout outs and announcements before we get to the real reason we're all here. Okay, Bax. But guys, every year the Galaxy does a beach cleanup, and the 2026 LA Galaxy beach cleanup this year will be held in partnership with Heal the Bay. That'll be on Saturday, April 11th from 8:30 to 10:30, because afterwards the Galaxy will be playing Austin at 11:30, but this one is happening at the Santa Monica Pier north. So, I mean, the pier is pretty big. So go ahead and make sure that you're at Santa Monica Pier north. And yeah, like I said, this will be happening from 8:30 to 10:30, and afterwards the watch party is at Ye Old King's Head there in Santa Monica. So go ahead and go do some good works for La Pachamama and Mother Earth, and afterwards go support your Galaxy. The Galaxy, speaking of support, the Galaxy themselves went out and supported their brethren, the LA Kings. This is one of those things that you love to see, because it's LA Sports supporting LA Sports. So they hooked up a 2-1 win. The good vibes made the Kings get to a 2-1 win over St. Louis, and you know, it's just nice to see these A, throwback jerseys, and B, the Galaxy players in the house. Ananda, you know what? It occurs to me that you didn't tell people to stalk you today.
Yeah, and actually I haven't even done it the last couple, so that's what? shame on me, and shame on we'll take shared responsibility.
Shame on me too.
But you know, Papa, just why don't you keep going with the shout outs, and then when we bring K-Bax on stage, we will remind the people as a PSA to come support us and support the show and all that good stuff. Cool.
Dale. Well, the people themselves have voted João Klaus the LA Galaxy Player of the Month for the second straight month. Congratulations to João, and let's keep it going with congratulations to Tacos in Linwood, because they hooked G's up with the free tacos for Women's History Month. Oh, the homie Izzy was there in the video. Remember, if Minnesota gets taken out by the Galaxy, this man on the screen right here is picking up a keg. You know, and
Compton OGs, make sure you DM him and remind him about it. Put in the comments.
and Ananda's gonna bust a keg stand for 25 seconds. It's gonna be glorious.
Wow, you way overshot that. Anyways, well, now that a couple of Galaxy players aren't gonna be available for the two legs. Anyways, we'll get to that.
Hey, my boy looks super happy with these tacos there, man, and they look fire in the video.
They look fire. Yep, they absolutely look fire. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not too far from my hood, man. So we gotta go check out tacos, and then shout out to them for being real ones. Guys, yep. We've talked about it a bunch of times. Landy is having his Bobblehead Night this Saturday, April 4th, against Minnesota. 15,000. Get there early. Only 15,000. So if you want one, get there. There's a limited number of 500. USA Landy Donovan, you press the button and he's like, America. No, I just made that part up, but no, he does have the American flag, and yeah, there's only 500 of those. So who will be the lucky few? And again, I keep it legit, y'all. I don't want to see these on Mercari or anything like that, man. Come on, like, just, you know, these are for the true G's, man. Today, Ananda, the Galaxy unveiled sorry, that was tonight, the season ticket membership. They had the exclusive convo with Landon, talking about his book and about his experiences and stuff like that. But tomorrow is really the one I wanted to talk about. Is you know, we always talk about, hey, the good and the bad. Well, another example of the Galaxy and Landon doing something amazing. They're opening a mini pitch at Bernie Tech Academy in El Rancho Unified School District in Pico Rivera. Man, you just love to see stuff like this. And then also tomorrow is an invite-only evening with Landon Donovan. I have no idea what that means, but yeah, sounds great. All right, let's talk about Easter and Easter egg hunts.
We're not invited, I don't think, but anyways.
No, we did not get an invite. They were like, those cats, no, Not at all.
They
Definitely
talk
not
too
them.
much. Yeah, we'll just leave them.
Yeah, this is just keep them out if by all means necessary. Anyway, guys, on Saturday, you can basically pull up to the digs even earlier than the game and participate in the 18th annual Easter egg hunt put on by the Galaxy from 4 to 5, and that's for kids ages 1 through 10. And there's going to be a bunch of entertainment and activities there at Galaxy Park. So, you know, if you're going to go to the digs anyway, show up a little early and participate in this for the kids. Guys, we've already told you as well that this pivotal 2-leg tie against Toluca has been announced, and the first leg will be on Wednesday, April 8th at El Estadio Nemesio Diaz in Toluca, and the second leg is Wednesday, April 15th at 6 p.m. Guys, by virtue of the Galaxy scoring 6 goals on Mount Pleasant and being first in the table or higher up in the table, they do host the decisive second leg here. So it's you know, Galaxy's advantage, I guess, if anything. That's like the one advantage they have coming up in this tie. So anyway, there's a lot of Toluca stuff to talk about. We will talk about it, and not on the show, but we will.
We're gonna need the Galaxy faithful definitely will need to be there for that one. They need to give the team as much energy as possible, because that is not going to be easy either way.
And you know, that's
at 6 o'clock, and it's a 6 o'clock kickoff. It's
I was gonna say that's kind of what worries me too, is it's an early kickoff, and these Champions League matches, Champions Cup matches during the week aren't well attended already, even when they're like at 7:30 or 8. Now it's at 6.
Yeah. Yep. Anyways.
Not a good look, CONCACAF. Yep. Anyway, VCFC. Let's bring it back to some VCFC guys. They do play Real Monarchs next on April 12th at 5 p.m. That'll be at the Willie Roll. But really, you guys should be all up on these open tryouts for male players ages 17 through 25. You have the opportunity to go out, showcase your talents, and maybe get picked up by VCFC, and who knows, live your ultimate dream of getting called up to the first team, and maybe one day we can interview you on this very podcast. But you'll never know unless you show up to the tryout, which is on June 11th and 12th at the LA Galaxy Sports Complex. And for more information, hit up wmeadows at lagalaxy.com. Ananda, if you were within the age range, would you go for giggles, like, or you know, like even like, you know, just to see like what's up, like where you were at?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I felt pretty good in that age range, but to be fair, I was probably playing more basketball than soccer around that age range. So I don't know, but anyways, you know, neither here nor there.
Oh my god, I was hooping.
Yep. Man, I hooped in the UC Irvine gym quite a bit, like almost every day. So anyways, that's college me. Anyways. Less of that and more of this.
Yeah, no, for sure. Man, like we're super close to the World Cup, and it's no surprise to see a bunch of World Cup goodies being released. Lego's gotten in on the action, and all these guys that you see here, I mean, you might have heard of them. They're up and coming. They all got their own Lego figurine with you know, their national kits on, and I mean, and on to when we were growing up and soccer was like not seen or watched or anything like that. Could you have ever imagined, man, that, you know, we'd have like Lego going mainstream with, you know, Vanney and Mbappe and CR7 and Messi, man? I mean, look at this. Crazy,
yeah,
man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I love Lego. I'm a huge Lego fan. Like, I just love everything that they do and all the pop culture icons and moments that they do, right? So everything from, like, I don't know, they do all that stuff with Disney, Harry Potter, I mean, Marvel, you name it. So this is this is super cool. Like, it's a really, really good idea on their part.
I I follow all the Ecuadorian things and that are happening in the World Cup and in the lead up and stuff like that. So I saw an excellent picture of Enner standing just next to them in the middle with his little figurine, and I said, hey, why not Enner as well? But anyway, guys, I mean, like we said, this is all in the lead up to this tournament that's basically right around the corner. So Ananda, why don't you take us through this international window here that just finished?
Yeah, so just a couple of little news and notes from the score lines of teams that we follow, and of course the national team, etc. So Spain against Egypt, scoreless tie here. This game was it was interesting, Rob, because it was marred unfortunately by some anti-Muslim chats from the home supporters there. The game was held in Barcelona, so it prompted a halftime announcement warning supporters to refrain from their chants. So kind of interesting and an unfortunate backdrop for this particular game. But so be that as it may, ended it in a scoreless draw. U.S. Actually, this is Rob's team here, his beloved Ecuador, tied with the Netherlands on 3:31. They tied 1-1. Apparently, Rob, they did their best LA Galaxy impression because they weren't able to take advantage of their man advantage as after Dumfries was sent off in the 12th minute. Ecuadorians were able to equalize through Enner Valencia, the aforementioned Enner Valencia with a pen. And then it kind of ended from there. And then, of course, another womp womp for the U.S. men's national team. They fall 2-0 to Portugal. Trincao was very, very good that game. He's probably man of the match along with Bruno. They just ran the show. João Felix scored the second. I think the last two games, Rob, I think that shows sort of where the U.S. men's national team is against, sort of especially the elite teams in Europe. And I think there's some worry signs now from USMNT fans, I think all over socials, etc. So I've seen a lot of takes, a lot of heat thrown at Poch's team. So I mean, it'll be interesting, man, to see like how they get through this, because boy, are they under the cosh already, and the tournament is what, 2 and a few months away. So
yeah, I mean, it is disappointing to see that this team fall to these results. I mean, we saw the game on Saturday at Tucker's event. What do you think it is? Is it the selection? Is it Poch? I mean, it's got to be something, right?
It's just they're just not executing, and it's probably a little bit of everything. I haven't watched, to be honest, I didn't watch these two games that closely, but it's being or executing in those final moments. And I always say about the Galaxy on this pod, but it's like, how good are you in both boxes? The U.S. Team has had multiple chances. They get in good positions. They just can't finish their chances. And then on the other end, they can't make the big defensive play. Matt Freese, by the way, had a phenomenal save in the first half to keep them in it early on, but they just couldn't. They just can't execute in those pivotal moments in both boxes, and that's what you got to do, especially in a World Cup tournament, especially with elite teams, all over the world like that. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, on my end, I mean, it is kind of worrying seeing Ecuador as well. I mean, because they are so solid defensively. I mean, they and I suppose I shouldn't be complaining because they haven't lost. I think like in something ridiculous like 200 days or something like that, or like a long time. They haven't even. I'm sorry, Italy though, for sure.
Yeah, that I was gonna say. I think that was like the biggest shock of all shocks. Like, I know a lot of my Italian friends didn't want to talk about it. They just were completely baffled and upset, and probably a range of all the emotions and above. So, yeah, man, it's that's I can't believe that it's gonna be what 14 years now that the Italy will not be in a world. Like, that's just wild to me. That's so wild for a 4-time champion, you know?
Yeah, no. Somebody put out there the other day. I might have already said it here on this podcast, but like, it's been so long since Italy's played in a World Cup match that the last time they played a senior men's World Cup match was when Luis Suarez bit Giorgio Chiellini. Can you that was Brazil, man. That was that long ago, man. So
yeah.
So anyway, there are, I mean, Spain continues to look great. I mean, like, that 0-0 shouldn't worry them. Whereas a tie for Ecuador does worry me, like I said, Ananda, because they're just not generating offensive chances. They're just basically a defensive team, and they're solid defensively, and they're not really getting past that at all. So hopefully they find a way to get some other players involved, generate some offense. But yeah, I mean, it was very, God, I felt like I was watching that LA Galaxy versus Portland match, man, because it was Denzel Dumfries got sent off even before Kamal Miller got sent off, and they were able to tie, but they weren't able to actually win the game, man. So it was kind of disappointing. We do have a super chat from the homie Adam. He says, did you guys hear the bad news of James Rodriguez? No, we did not. Well, Adam, you gotta share.
So I just pulled it up right now. This was posted maybe a couple hours ago. The headline is James Rodriguez hospitalized with dehydration after Colombia game. It has been confirmed after establishing communication with the medical center, state of Minnesota. The midfielder has been under professional observation due to a non-sports related medical condition. So yeah, the day after a match against France, player presented with severe dehydration that required hospitalization for the past 72 hours for preventative and recovery monitoring. Wow, it's breaking news. I mean, that released, well, I'm just reading on ESPN at 7:16 Eastern time. So that just shows you I haven't been online since then. So.
Yeah, no. I mean, I was in the office, and then I got myself ready to join y'all. So no, I mean, our guest, the incredible Kevin Baxter might have heard of this, and then he can maybe shed some light on this. But even if he hasn't, we can go ahead and get his reaction to something like this, because something like this does influence his upcoming match, right? So, but this is an appropriate time to go to our guest, the real reason you guys are all here. Like I mentioned, he's been a constant in the LA sports scene for 20 years, and as a sports writer for the LA Times, and he's covered everything. I mean, pretty much everything, guys. I mean, from soccer, hockey, and baseball. I call Ananda the cosmopolitan one, but every time I haven't seen Kevin in a while, I'll ask Josh, like, hey, have you seen Kevin? And like, oh yeah, he's like in Italy, or he's like in Japan, or and I'm like, wow, he's the real.
You call me, you call me
man.
the jet setting one, man. Shoot, I got nothing.
Yeah, no, I mean, Kevin's the real metropolitan one, man. But yeah, like I said, he's been all over the world, because he's been all over the world covering sports for y'all, bringing you the story live and direct, and his work has led him to win 3 Pulitzer Prizes, and now you get to enjoy him as the co-host of Corner of the Galaxy alongside the podfather Josh Guessman, and y'all know him as Panda. We know him as K-Bax. Please welcome back to the show, LA Times sports writer Kevin Baxter. Welcome back, Kevin.
Hey guys, I'm kind of a late arriving guest. Maybe that's the way guests are supposed to be, right? You're supposed to wait till the party gets started and then show up.
Exactly, man. And you're just learning from me because you're on Ecuadorian time now.
Well, yeah, you talk about being everywhere. Pretty soon I'll be going somewhere, but I don't know where yet. Waiting to see how the hockey playoffs work out. The Kings are getting thrashed right now, so they're probably not going to go. But we know the Ducks are going somewhere. We just don't know where yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm jealous of your frequent flyer miles, man. I bet you have Sky Lounge down pat and stuff like that.
No, not quite. I wish, but you guys are talking about this game coming up this weekend with Minnesota United. It's a huge game for the Galaxy, and I'm sure that if
Absolutely.
you talk to the players, they're going to tell you, we wish James Rodriguez was there. I think Minnesota has a few injury problems, and they're off to a poor start as well. Minnesota, a team that was supposed to be a playoff team, thought of as a playoff team, seemed to be heading in the right direction as an organization. They're off to a really poor start. I think James Rodriguez's first game, they lost like 6-0. So it's a game that they need, and they're on the road. The Galaxy really need this one. I mean, they've got a short little unbeaten streak. They haven't won on the road since October of the World Cup year, October of 2024. They're not on the road, but they do go on the road for their next two MLS games, Austin and Dallas, and Texas has been a big problem for the Galaxy traditionally. So if they don't win this game, they're looking at a long, long time before they would be favored to win again. This is a game where the Galaxy need to get back off the snide, start playing well, get a little bit of momentum, feel good about themselves. I'm a really big believer in that whole mental aspect.
Yeah,
the Galaxy
absolutely.
need to feel good about themselves, but then they're hurt too. They're missing Joseph Paintsil won't be back. We know that. They've got some guys banged up on the back line. So it's going to be kind of maybe a game of survival with these two teams, both coming in with a lot of key injuries.
Yeah.
Hey, Kevin, there's if we take last year, right, 2025, and you take this year, through 5 games, the Galaxy are looking better in the standings and do generally look a little better than last year, right? But is that because they are actually better, or are they just a little less bad? I mean, is this actually a playoff team? Are they flattering to deceive? Have they hit their ceiling already? I mean, what do you see out of this team?
Well, I kind of disagree. I don't think they've looked that good. I mean, they're 1-2-2, right? They got the one win against Charlotte. And after that Charlotte game, the feeling was, that Charlotte game was a really good game, although they scored all their goals in the first 13 minutes. So you kind of look at that and say, well, they did well in the first 13 minutes. What about the rest of the game? But regardless of that, after the Charlotte game, my feeling was, okay, that was a really good performance. But I need to see that again. And I haven't. They went to Colorado and got blown out. That game in Portland. Then they lost to Sporting Kansas City at home, fell behind 2-0, and against a team that was at the bottom of the table when they came in. Then they went to Portland, another team that was at the bottom of the table, and they drew Portland. That was a tough game. That was on turf. They flew from Jamaica, so maybe you give them a little. And that was on the road, but the Kansas City game was at home. Colorado, the game wasn't even close. So yeah, I'm not convinced. I don't know that this team is better than last year's. And last year's team, remember, went 16 games, the first 16 games without a win in MLS. They already have a win this year, so they've broken that record. But I'm not so sure that this team is all that much better. And I'm not sure right now that it's a potential playoff team. I need to see more out of this team. And the one thing I keep coming back to is, you hear, well, we're a different team without Ricky. Ricky Pooch isn't here. We're a different team without him. We expected him to be back. Yeah, but you knew you weren't going to have him last year, and the team didn't make the adjustment they needed. He went down January 1st. The season didn't start till the end of February, so they had 6-7 weeks to adjust to that. I know that's difficult. You can't replace Ricky, but if you're not going to have him, you can make some adjustments and figure out a way to play maybe a different style. And Greg Vanney, after the game in Portland, the low block has really been the kryptonite for the Galaxy. They just can't figure out how to play against the low block. And, the word is out around MLS. Everybody is going to throw a low block at these guys. They've got to figure out a way to beat the low block or they're going to really struggle, because if other teams see, the other teams scout them, they watch the Galaxy, they know they can't play against a low block. And until they prove that they can, people are going to be throwing that at them. And Greg Vanney said some things after the last game, sort of like, well, we're learning to play together as a team, and guys need to make better decisions and learn what to do. Well, you're the coach. You got to get them to do that. You've got to get them to play as a team. 6 of the guys that started that game in Portland were here last year. So it's not like a whole bunch of new guys are coming in. And JT Marcinkowski, who was the goalkeeper, was also here, but he didn't play much last year. I don't think he played ever for the first team. So these are guys that know each other. It's not like these guys are wearing name tags and get introduced before the game. They've played together. So the whole idea of we're beginning to get chemistry, we're beginning to learn how to play together, that should not be an issue at this point.
So in this match against Portland, right? Does that draw stem from a particular approach to the game by Greg, you think, or his players not executing? What did the result itself and the inability to get the win, being up a man 70 plus minutes, tell you about this team?
Yeah, well, they came in with tired legs. I do get the Jamaica to Portland. That's probably the longest trip any MLS team is going to make this season. And
I think so.
And again, playing on turf, that was difficult. They're a little bit banged up. So I'll give them that. But you're right that it all that should have gone out the window. They were up a man for 70 minutes and weren't able to get it done. And there was a lot of, Greg's right, there was a lot of indecision in the final third. Guys making a final pass, an extra pass at one point rather than taking the shot, and then another time taking the shot when they should have made the pass. Just poor decision making. And I don't know whether that's indecision, whether guys. I'm not in the locker room, so I don't know what Greg tells them, and so I wonder: are guys afraid to make a mistake? Because you got to play free. You have to be able to take a shot, and if you miss it, like Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of all the other shots you never take. Guys have to be free to take a shot, and try to force it a little bit. So at the same time, you see guys being conservative though, and passing up some of those shots. So I'm not really sure what it is, but guys don't seem to have the confidence when they get in the final third to sort of take the ball and do something with it. And Marco Reus is in some ways Marco Reus, because of his resume, what a great player. Borussia Dortmund, played in many Champions League, would have on the German team that won the World Cup in 2014, although he was injured and so didn't play. But he made that roster. That's how good he is. It seems like they're looking at him to be a little bit of a Ricky Puig replacement, a guy that's going to be a playmaker. That's not what he does. That's not how he plays. So if they're just saying, look, hey, you're the biggest name on the team, you're the guy with the most experience, you step in there and you be the playmaker and you be the Ricky Puig, that's not going to work. So, they need to find that sort of dynamic playmaker to replace Ricky or play another way. And I will say, Klaus is second, I think, now in the league in goals. He's played really well. And I do think that he's a guy that misses Paintsil delivering some of those crosses from the side. They still have Gabriel Peck. Now he's trying to do too much. It's just I don't know how to describe it, but it's just not coming together. I hesitate to blame Greg Vanney, because 2 years ago, he had the best team and one of the best teams in Galaxy history, and they won the MLS Cup. You don't lose as a coach. You don't lose that overnight. But at the same token, last season was the worst season in Galaxy history by a lot of measures. And they're struggling again this season. It's hard to blame, 26 players. So it becomes much easier to blame the coach. So I don't know where the fault lies, but I think this Galaxy team is better than they've played. When you look at the talent that they can put on the field, they're better than they played, but they're not getting the results.
Kevin, you talked about the focus on Marco Reus a little bit earlier, but we know that this league is it revolves around the DPs, right? The DPs will take your team as far as you go. Now you look at a guy like Gabriel Peck, who's one of the DPs, and in CONCACAF, he's been doing all right, but in the league, he's got 0 goals. So you think about what you said in terms of the lack of confidence in the final third. Like, is he the guy that needs to step up the most? Is he the one that's mostly underperforming, or are there other guys on this team that need to step up?
I think it's a collective case. Gabriel Peck, I believe Gabriel Peck thinks he can do that. And he's one of the guys that I think has been pressing a little bit and making poor decisions. He gets into the final third, as we talked about, the attacking third, and decides, he needs to sort of put the team on his shoulders, when it would be much better if he relaxed a little bit. When they won the MLS Cup, I think one thing that keeps getting missed is they had 4 guys with 10 goals.
Right.
Paintsil, Peck, Dejan Jovalic, and Ricky Puig. And so it never really fell to one guy. And you saw guys like Peck had some brilliant games, but then got shut down in the playoffs, especially in the Seattle game. He got shut down, and after that, he really wasn't a factor in the playoffs. But it didn't matter because other people picked up, right? Dejan Jovalic scored a goal in the final, and other guys sort of took over. Ricky played really well before he got hurt. So it didn't matter if they took Peck out of the game because there were 3 other guys. I think that's maybe one thing that's missing. If they take Peck out of the game, and Paintstill's injured, who do you go to? Right now you go to Klaus, but if Klaus doesn't have any
Right.
service, the ball's got to get to him from somewhere. I think, one thing about Klaus is he's a lot like Chicharito in my mind, that he's a poacher. He's not going to create the play. He's going to be at the goal, and you get him the ball, he'll score, but someone needs to get him the ball. He's not going to dribble into the box himself. So when they were really good, they had multiple options. And I think right now they don't have multiple options. And more importantly, the players feel like they don't have multiple options. So you get a guy dribbling into the box thinking, I've got to do this myself, or conversely, I'm going to set somebody up and let them score. And so there's this indecision. What are we really doing when we get in the final third?
Yeah, that's interesting. I've called it this team's plagued with hero ball. What we saw a little bit of Ricky in 24, but yeah, those are all really salient points.
We do have go ahead.
I was going to say that's the attacking side, right? But
right.
Look at the other side. The Galaxy have given up more goals than they made saves with their two goalkeepers. So, and we have a goalkeeper controversy. I think JT Marcinkowski may have sort of taken the job because he played so well in the CONCACAF Champions Cup that maybe we're coming out of it. By the way, we're coming out of a 2-week break, and let's not forget about that. The Galaxy, because they've been playing twice a week, every week, flying to Jamaica, flying to where was their first game? Panama, right? Flying to all these places and then trying to play at home or play MLS games on the road. They haven't had any time to train. So they've had 2 weeks to train. No one went out to international duty. All the key players were there. Everybody got a chance to train. We'll see what they look like. It'd be interesting to see if there are any major lineup changes. I think JT Marcinkowski may be in goal. We'll see how that plays out. I do think that the goalkeeper position is up for grabs. Someone can really make a case for themselves that they'll do well. But you may see, we're talking about how the Galaxy have done up to now. They just had a 2-week break. I think we may see a totally different team, which Galaxy fans should be happy about, because the team they've seen so far just doesn't seem to be that good.
Yeah, Ananda, it's actually interesting. Today we spoke with Greg and Justin Hack, and they mentioned just that the break allowed them to get down things that they on the training field that they hadn't been able to touch on. And guys like Eric Tommy benefited immensely from this. Greg, I believe he said now he has his legs and his engine under him, and for a player like him who's very mobile, that's a tremendous help. So this, I think you're right, Kevin. I think this Galaxy team benefited immensely from this 2-week break, and you could see a different team. But looking ahead to this weekend where they're matched up with Minnesota, there's going to be a bunch of things happening around the match, including the festivities around Landon Donovan. You recently interviewed Landon for an article, and then he was actually on Corner of the Galaxy, and so you've had a couple conversations with him recently. What has that been like, and how is each conversation different? Because I know the conversation for print is different from like a format like this, like a podcast.
Yeah, well, when it's for print, I understand, and Landon understands that I'm only going to use a few quotes. I'm looking for information, stuff that will go in between the quotes. It's not so much sound bites that I want. When he's on the radio show, we're allowing him to speak for himself, and he gets the chance to explain himself, in a much better way. So, yeah, I mean, the conversations are sort of different. Again, the podcast, we let him speak for himself. But the thing that, we were talking about his book, his memoir, Landon, which is, anyone that gets a chance should really check it out. It dropped last week, 2 weeks ago now. You should get it. If you get a chance, check it out. It's really good. And you'll recognize a lot of the things in the book that happened. If you're a Galaxy fan, that you saw some of this stuff happen, and he kind of takes you behind the scenes. But, as great as Landon's been and was on the field, he retired with the most goals in MLS history, second most assists. He retired with the most goals in national team history, most assists. He still has that record, most World Cup games played, most World Cup goals. People talk about Christian Pulisic. He's got to go a little ways to catch Landon in just about every category.
Definitely.
So, Landon retired as the best player in U.S. history, but the bigger contribution he might have made is with that sabbatical that he took ahead of the 2014 World Cup, cost him a spot on the team. Jurgen cut him because of that sabbatical. But it was because of mental health. And yeah, well, the funny thing was I asked Landon, because he talks in the book about his dad. I don't want to give too much away because I want you guys to read the book, but his father was absent for most of Landon's childhood, and it affected just about everything in Landon's life. And near the end, right before his father died, they made up, they made their peace. And Landon talked about how important that was, because if he hadn't done that before his father died, of course, he'd have to live with that for the rest of his life. So he goes into great detail about forgiving his father. And so we talked about Jurgen, and I said, have you forgiven Jurgen? And he goes, that's a good question. He said, let me think about that for a minute. And he said, no, I haven't. And when they went back to the World Cup draw in Washington, D.C., there were a lot of, soccer luminaries and things that they had that FIFA invited there. And Landon was one, and Jurgen was one. And they wound up leaving their hotel where they're staying, and they got on the bus, and Landon was there, and Jurgen came down, sat down beside him. And Landon said, Jurgen never turned to say anything to me. He never said hello or anything, never even acknowledged that I was there, which was weird.
Shade.
But my point was going to be, for all Landon's done on the field, when he came out and talked about the importance of mental health and the importance of going to see a therapist, and the importance of having a counselor, and the importance of being honest about that and addressing it, that might turn out to be even a bigger thing than what he did on the field, because you look at all the people that came after him that now are talking about it, the importance of it, like Simone Biles, who famously had that incident at the Olympics and in Tokyo. You look at Michael Phelps. There's players in the NBA now who all, it used to be in my generation. I'm way older than you guys, but in my generation, no matter what injury you had, mental, physical, whatever, it was rub dirt on it. Get out there. Don't be a wimp. Go out there and play.
Suck it up.
And Landon grew up with that too. He is one of the first people that have come out and talk about how important mental health is for you, and in dealing with the failures and the successes. So, that might wind up being what Landon is really remembered for at the end of the day.
No, and that's a fantastic thing to be remembered for. I mean, Galaxy fans, obviously, like you said, know him for the incredible CV he has, but for his fellow athletes, that's going to be huge and pivotal. I mean, it's funny. For whatever reason, I started rewatching the Ted Lasso series, and there's that one episode where that talks about how, players are people, and you and I and Ananda, we know that. Oh, you and I, that's a shot for Ananda. But we know that because we get to speak to them up close and personal, right? And we have that opportunity, but I think sometimes the fans forget that as well.
Landon told one. I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to get this before I forgot about it. Landon told one really good story where to sort of explain why, when you say, well, how does it affect the way you play on the field? Well, it does in a number of ways, but Landon had one really clear example. He said there was one season he was still with the Galaxy, and he had a groin issue, and it didn't stop him from playing. It didn't stop him from training, but it just nagged, and it picked at him all the time. He couldn't feel free to run and do the things he wanted to do. He could still play, but he wasn't 100%. It just bothered him.
Right.
And he said he went to therapy with his therapist one time, and the session they had was brutal. Landon, he said, I just cried throughout. It was so emotional. They were talking about his dad, and the therapist said, Landon, I think it's time to let it go. You can't change it. Let it go. Forgive your dad. And Landon made the decision there to forgive his dad. He said he walked out, the groin didn't bother him again all year. Just as he walked out of the office, it was gone. He just let it go. And then when Landon was coaching the Loyal, I remember I went down to interview him when he started coaching the USL Championship team in San Diego. And he told me a story that he didn't think was a big deal, but I came out just completely floored by it. He said that every day the team comes into the training center, somebody on the team, whether it's him, an assistant coach, a trainer, somebody goes up to every player and checks on them. How do you feel physically? But also, how do you feel mentally? And Landon said, if a guy said, my dog's sick, or, my girlfriend is, she's at the doctor's today, we think she might be pregnant, or whatever it is, just anything that's bothering them mentally, that could be bothering them mentally. I never heard a coach talk about if your dog's sick or your dog died, you don't have to train today. But Landon said that's not going to allow them to train at 100% if they have a mental issue. And so he would let them, he would excuse them from training to go take care of what they needed to take care of. And I think that does two things. One, it frees them up mentally to feel 100%. But if a coach does that for you, how much are you going to give for that coach on the field?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think you win their loyalty with that kind. When you treat them, as you guys said earlier, when you treat them like a person, they'll do anything for you.
Yeah. Although imagine telling that to Bruce Arena, Rob. I don't know how that conversation would go, but that's a different era.
No, it's so great that you bring up Bruce, because I did talk to Bruce for the story in the Times. Bruce, I'm a huge Bruce fan. I'm a huge Landon fan. You might think that those two conflict, but they really don't. And you mentioned Bruce. Landon changed Bruce. Bruce is definitely a rub the dirt on it guy. Remember when Landon took his sabbatical? It talks about this in the book where Landon said, I need to get away. And Bruce said, okay. And that sounded great to Landon. But then Bruce said, how long? You going to miss a game, a weekend? Landon's like, I don't know. I may never come back. But Bruce wanted that finality. Bruce was definitely a rub dirt on it guy. But when I talked to him about Landon, what have you learned from Landon? And he said, I've learned that what you guys just said. I learned that players are people, and people have problems, and people have issues, and people have good days and bad days. And let's not forget, as much as we want to think about Bruce as an old school guy, which he is, he's the guy that brought Robbie Rogers into MLS. He's the guy that, was saluted by a lot of LGBTQ organizations for supporting Robbie Rogers. He went out and Robbie told me that only two coaches in MLS ever reached out to him when he decided that he was not going to play anymore. And they both told him the same message was the same. Look, you want to come play, train with us, hang out with us. Great. It's open-ended. If you feel like you want to join the team, we'll sign you. If you just want to come and kick the ball around with our guys, that's fine. The two coaches that did that were Bruce Arena and Ziggy Schmidt. They were the only two that reached out to him.
That's awesome. Rest in peace, Ziggy. Kevin, we do have a super chat. XPH, you executive producer Herb, you know him, you love him.
I know him very well. Yes.
Yeah. So he says, hey Ananda, hey Rob, hey Kevin, good to see you. So is Corner of the Galaxy getting TAM or GAM? Did LCG have your discovery rights, or is this a Beckham to Milan loan? Have a great show. Thanks, XPH. This is a celebrity charity match in which K-Bax decided to be, the celebrity of honor, and to literally give us charity by being gracious with his time. So that's what that was.
So you didn't want to mention the undisclosed amount of pupusas. Got it.
Well, Josh told me the other day when we were doing the show prep for Corner of the Galaxy on Monday, he said something to the effect, I was on a pod last night. It was a pod in Sweden, and I was talking to some Swedish guys. I go, wait a minute, you're cheating on me? You're cheating on me, and you didn't tell me. And so now I feel I have no regrets. This is fine. Josh cheated on me, so I'm cheating on him.
It's payback.
Oh, retribution. And you know what? Might be some retribution as well, or the Galaxy might feel like that at the end of it, is this brutal April, man. It's like we spoke to Greg about it, and how they're just gonna have to be smart about how they approach these games. But what do you feel like Greg needs to change in the next 5 league matches, if anything, to make it feel like real progress and a successful April? And for you anyway, what is, I asked Greg, what does success look like, but what does success look like for you in April?
Well, I really think they need a big result in the Minnesota game. And you never want to, people, journalists and fans always say, is this a must-win game? A coach can never, ever say any game is a must-win game unless it's the Super Bowl. Because if you tell your players it's a must-win game and you lose, well, then why play the rest of the season? You've already told them,
right.
They lost the must-win game. So, but this is as close as that as you're going to get this early in the season, because look what comes after that. The 2 games with Toluca, one at home, one on the road. In Toluca, it's going to be brutal. I went to Toluca. It's a volcano. It's very high. A lot of top Mexican boxers go there to train, to run, and then to box at the top of the mountain, because the oxygen is so thin. And so that's where the Galaxy are going to go play. It's going to be tough. But then the MLS games they have around that, after Minnesota, they go to Austin, they go to Dallas. We've talked about that before. A very difficult place for the Galaxy to play for whatever reason. Dallas looks a little bit improved. I think Austin is still trying to find itself, but two very difficult places to play. I think they have 7 games in like less than 28 days. They got a game like every 4 days, and a lot of travel, again, to Toluca, to Austin. Then they come back, then they go to Dallas. Then they go to Columbus. So it's going to be tough. And I could see, I mean, I think the Galaxy are going to put up a fight and they're going to get some results, but I would not be surprised if they lost the Austin game, they lost the Dallas game, and they lost the Columbus game, because those games are on the road. The Galaxy haven't won on the road since October of 2024. So let's just assume that maybe they lose 2 out of those 3 and they draw the other. So they got 1 point from those 3 games. Can they really afford to give away any points against Minnesota? And they get Salt Lake at the end of the month. You kind of look at that, and that's probably a good game for the Galaxy. But if they don't get something out of this Minnesota game for the standings and to feel good about themselves going into this really tough stretch, it's going to be hard. And unfortunately, the Galaxy are going to this game banged up. Missing Joseph Paintsil. We forget Joseph Paintsil is the only guy on the World Cup roster from the Galaxy team this year. He's the only guy that might be. I don't think he'll make the Ghana team. He certainly won't start, but he's the only possibility. That's how good he is. That's how important he is to the Galaxy. And you guys talked about the designated players. Ricky Puig is not playing. He's a designated player. He's off the books this year. But then Paintsil, another designated player, not playing. Marco Royce is not a DP, and they're asking for a lot from him. He's a TAM player. So the Galaxy they're missing some key pieces, and this is going to be a really tough game, but also a very important one in my mind, especially coming out of that 2-week break. What did we learn, guys? What did we learn from this 2-week break? Show us.
Yep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we would hope that they have picked up some of the lessons that, quote unquote, they have been working on in the training. I mean, it's kind of tough, right? Because you have a team now that you mentioned that has Marco Royce, that is kind of a quote unquote replacement. João Klaus is also a replacement. Eric Tommy is going to be on the field. He's Joseph Paintsil's replacement. So now you have to see these players actually step up, right? And take, what's that phrase? Next man up, or stand up and be counted. So we have to see the Ananda.
I was gonna say and repay Greg. I would say and I was gonna say and repay Greg's faith. I mean, Greg's gonna be on the hot seat if results don't turn around. I mean, even Kevin said it. I mean, imagine if they get three L's, that extends the road winless streak. I mean, when we come into May, we're gonna have the same conversations around Vanney. And those are going to get louder and louder as the season goes on and these performances go on. So, and of course, especially if they're out of the CCC at that point. So it's a super big month. And I agree with Kevin 100%. It's not must win. Boy, it's close. It's a real close.
But, we talked about the 24 team and how they had 4 guys with over 10 goals and opponents didn't really know who to focus on. Look at the team this year. Only one guy scored multiple goals, right? Klaus. Yeah. So it's not that team. It's not that dynamic team. The Galaxy are depending on who plays first, because the 2 New York teams are doing really well offensively. But the Galaxy are either first or second in the league in shots. They're ranking the top 3 in shots on target, but they're in the middle of the pack in goals. So they're not. They're getting a lot of shots. They're getting a lot of opportunities. They're just not finishing the deal. They're not finishing their shots. Defensively, we talked about earlier about the fact the Galaxy have given up more goals than they have made saves. I think the defense, even though it's been banged up a little bit, I think the defense has played fairly well. They've got beaten at times. There's some holes there. Garces, I think, has to mature a little bit. Yoshida is showing his age at times. But when you look at the number of shots they've given up, at the top of the league and fewest shots allowed, but all the goals they've given up. I mean, and to me, that comes down to the goalkeeping. I was told early on when I started covering soccer that a really good goalkeeper should make all the saves he should make, all the easy saves, kind of like being a shortstop, right? You make all the easy plays, and then 1 or 2 a game, you make a tough play, you make a difficult play, and that's a really good goalkeeper. And I think the Galaxy right now, the goalkeepers are not making the difficult saves, and they're not making all of the easy saves either. So there needs to be some stability back there. These defenders are working so hard. When they turn around, the ball's in the back of the net, they didn't do anything wrong. That's a real deflating feeling.
If you had to guess, looking ahead to the Galaxy versus Minnesota, who do you think Greg will go with JT or with Novak?
I think JT. I think Novak has been given a chance. He was given a chance last year. I don't know him that well. He rarely speaks to the media. Hasn't spoken to us all that often, so we didn't really get a chance to know him. I kind of feel like he's a little bit immature. I think he needs to sort of grow into this role. I think that's why they had John McCarthy. He was supposed to be the mentor, and they let him go. And maybe JT has that role right now. But I think JT has played better. And I think, you guys talked to Greg today. I didn't, but Greg has mentioned a couple of times that he hasn't decided who the number one is. I think he has. Yep. I think he has to decide. I just like, a quarterback, you got to know, teams got to know who's playing before they go on the field. They got to have confidence in that guy. And if you're changing them every half or every game or whatever. But you ask about the April schedule. When you look at that, Greg started the season wanting to have two teams. He wanted a CCC team, right? And Marcin Koski was the goalkeeper there. And he wanted an MLS team. And he didn't want to use guys in both if he could avoid it, as fewer guys as possible playing both games because the schedule was so tough. Well, what do you do now? Because you got injury problems. I think there's 4 guys that aren't going to suit up in the Minnesota game. And then you go straight to Toluca. And some of the guys you're depending on, Marco Royce, Yoshida, are, they're on the wrong side of 35. So, Greg's in a tough situation. He's got a short roster, and he's got a ton of games, and he's got a ton of travel. This is really going to be difficult to find the best 11 to put on that field. And now the Champions Cup is at the stage where it's getting more difficult. I think you could throw some guys out there that aren't first team players necessarily in the Jamaica game and even in the Panama game, and it's okay. You're not gonna. You got to have your best 11 guys against Toluca if you really want to try to win that series.
Yep.
Yeah, well, like you said, the match against Minnesota will be an opportunity to kind of get that feel good factor before they go into that Toluca match, and the Galaxy has actually been pretty decent against Minnesota. In 17 all-time meetings between the two teams, they hold an 8-3-6 record, including a 5-1-2 record at home. Last year, they played to a 2-2 draw in Minnesota, and then the Galaxy actually won in October the one of their victories from last year with behind goals by Nascimento and Joseph Painso, both players who will probably not be available for this match on Saturday. They are unbeaten in their last 5 meetings with Minnesota, winning 3 and drawing 2. The Galaxy won their last 4 home matches with Minnesota, scoring 14 goals. They have won 6 of 9 home matches with Minnesota and scoring 27 in those matches. Minnesota's going to be looking for the first victory this season in away, as they have 2 losses and 1 draw on the road, and they're looking to reverse a 7-match away win streak. The last time they earned a win on the road, it was in September of 2025 against San Diego. Kevin, those are pretty damning numbers for Minnesota. The Galaxy seem to have their number recently. They've started the season poorly. History's not on their side. You have to imagine that the Galaxy get these 3 points at home, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean, they need them. First of all, they need them, and Minnesota again is banged up as well. We talked about James Rodriguez. They're missing some other starters as well. If it's everything is set up well for the Galaxy, but how many times have we seen that? Oh, geez, this looks like a great opportunity for the Galaxy to do something, and they don't, and they seem to get in their own way a lot. But the Galaxy probably need this one more than Minnesota does, especially since they're at home. But who do you play? You're missing Painso, you're missing Nascimento. Nascimento's not going to start, of course, but very valuable guy off the bench. They're getting a little thin on the back line. It's going to be a difficult game for the Galaxy, but good teams win those difficult games. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for. To me, a lot of these things are kind of character checks. I mean, they followed the Charlotte game, which was great by laying an egg in Colorado. I want to, the Galaxy, coaches talk all the time about, well, we needed to suffer. We have to suffer. The Galaxies are suffering right now. They need to come out from the other end. And as much as they need a result and some points, they need a good performance, because I think they need to start feeling good about themselves and stop having people like us and people like them. I mean, if we're asking these questions, you don't think the players know enough to ask these same questions in the locker room? Maybe not out loud and maybe not of each other, but they're looking around and saying, what kind of team are we? Are we gonna get this together? We see these guys in training, man, they're really good. How come they can't do it in the game? So the Galaxy need to prove it to us, but more importantly, they need to prove to themselves that they're a good team.
I love that self-confidence. I mean, and we've mentioned it a couple times already. I mean, you started off with that confidence that a player needs, and God, it'd be, like you said, it'd be good for them to go into that Toluca match with a win. I mean, with a commanding performance, that would be all time. We do have another super chat from the homie Adam. Gracias, Adam. Can I get Kevin's take if anything will happen with Vanney this season's performance if the situation doesn't improve with the Galaxy this season? I think I have that right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can I get your take if anything will happen with Vanney? Okay. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be misunderstood that I'm calling for Greg Vanney's firing, because I'm not. But as we said earlier, there are 26 players or whatever on the first team, 28. If the team's not performing, you can't get rid of all 28 players. So the coach becomes a scapegoat. If the team, last year they won 7 games, lowest win total in Galaxy history. They lost 18. That tied the worst total ever, fewest points ever. So they went from one of the best seasons to one of the worst. And they've really only made a playoff run in one of Greg Vanney's, I think, 5 seasons here. So he does need, I think he does need a good season to justify the 3-year or whatever multi-year extension he got last year. I think he's a great coach. I think one of the problems is when you fire a coach, you have to, that's only part of the solution. You have to say, is there somebody better that we can hire? And Oscar Pereira's out there. There's some coaches out there now. So that question's kind of answered. Greg Vanney, though, he's a Galaxy lifer. I mean, he was brought back to reinstall the culture that he helped build. He was on the original Galaxy team in 1996. He and his whole coaching staff, Kevin Hartman, Dan Kalichman, they were all part of the Galaxy. They were brought back to reinstill that culture and that winning tradition. It hasn't happened yet. And so that's what they paid Greg Vanney for. He had one great season, and that's been about it. But that extension, apparently there may be a clause in there, and I'm not sure about this. There may be a clause in there that allows the Galaxy to at some point buy Greg out after the season. I think he's safe, probably safe for the season unless things go really bad. The one thing the Galaxy don't want to do, in my opinion, I know they have more money than God and Phil Anschutz is rich, but they were in a situation when they fired Kurtanafo and then they hired Ziggy Schmidt, and then they fired Ziggy Schmidt, and then they hired Guillermo Barros-Schelotto. They were paying 3 coaches because they had to continue to pay Kurtanafo's contract. They had to continue to pay Ziggy Schmidt's contract, and then they had to pay Kurtanafo. They were paying 3 coaches at once. I think they learned something from that. They don't want to repeat that. So I don't think they're going to want to get in a situation where they're paying 2 coaches. Having said that, you got to do something to stop the bleeding. If this team can't do it themselves, management's probably going to have to step in and stop the bleeding. But I also wonder whether Will Kuntz gets swept up in that too. Greg only plays the players he gets. Right. And so you have to look around and say, did this team fit together? Will Kuntz was brilliant when he first came in and built that 2024 team. You just can't say enough about it. He definitely deserved, MLS Executive of the Year. He didn't get it. He definitely should have won that honor. But, the last 2 years so far have not been good, and the players don't seem to mesh, and it doesn't seem to be fitting. And the excuse always is, well, Ricky's not here. Yeah, Ricky's one of the best players in the league, probably the most important. I would say he's more important to the Galaxy than Messi is to Miami, because of the way they play. Well, he's not here. He wasn't here last year. He's not here this year, and they haven't made the adjustment. Right.
Yeah, it's I hope this isn't true, but after 2 ACL injuries, what kind of player is Ricky going to come back and be? I mean, it's 2 years of not playing, 2 years off of ACL injuries. I mean, God, I hope by everything out there that he comes back and he's a little old to him, but statistically we haven't seen that with players, right? So not to put a damper on things, but we have another super chat by Adam who's really leaning into this Vanney discussion. I think he says
comments well known.
Yes. Well, I said if you got something to,
and Nancy, I mean, they're out there.
If you got something to get off your chest, and Adam's taking advantage of it.
That's why Kevin mentioned earlier that argument now doesn't really exist anymore. Like, there are some viable coaches out there, which makes the decision fairly interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's always it's always a two-part thing. This coach is not working out, but do we have somebody better? Sometimes you fire a coach just to deliver a message, like, we're not going anywhere. You guys got to start playing for your careers. And this is, I think that's kind of what the Kings did this season when they fired their coach. I think it was more a message of, look, we're not going to the playoffs. We're going to send a message, to wake the players up.
With Pareja even.
And exactly. And in this situation, there are some alternatives out there, and the Galaxy might force the Galaxy's hand if they're even thinking. And I don't think they are right now. I think it's too early. I don't think they are right now.
So too.
Yep.
But you brought up a really good point, Rob, about Ricky Puig, because it is an ACL. It's been torn twice. You look at in baseball, Max Muncy doesn't really need his ACL all that much. That'd be fine. But Ricky is a guy who's dynamic. He's fast. He cuts. He does a lot of things that put a lot of strain on that ACL. And so when he comes back, not only will the ACL hold up, that's the first question, but will Ricky have confidence to make those cuts and those moves? Because if he backs off even 5%, he's a different player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, part of what makes Ricky is that he's so audacious, and what's the word we've been talking about all podcast? Confidence, right? He's the embodiment of swagger and confidence. I mean, the lad just drips I am him energy, right? So like you said,
he's the engine.
And like you said, Kevin, if that diminishes even just a little bit, he's not him anymore. I mean, he's gonna be sadly another version of him. I mean, maybe he can evolve. I mean, and be a different type of player, just as good. But like you said, I mean, he's a player that needs to cut, that needs to make those quick movements. And God, I hope the medical professionals did their magic, and then they bound him up with everything they could. But again, statistically, it just hasn't gone that way.
Here's another thing with Ricky, and I don't know how much this factors in. I haven't talked to him about it. I don't know what he was feeling, but I do believe. Remember, Ricky came from Barcelona. I was in Barcelona in 2019 doing some stories, and I was at La Masia, the Barcelona training facility. And at that time in 2019, all anybody was talking about was Ricky Puig. Everybody was talking about how great this guy was. And he played some first team games that year and did pretty well. And then there was a coaching change, and he fell out of favor with the new coach. And all of a sudden he was training with the second team and became available and wound up here. My point of that is when he came over, he was a very young player, a very talented player who was known already in Europe. And I think I'm sure that his thought process was, look, I put up some numbers over here. I prove I can do this. I get playing time, which I didn't get in Barcelona. I play 90 minutes every week. Everyone can see how I play. And I'm going back to Europe. And I think he was on the verge of thinking that was a possibility given the season that he had in 2024. And what happened? He gets injured at the end of that season. All of a sudden, The transfer window's open. Nobody wants him. No one's going to sign a guy with a torn ACL. So he misses that year. And then he's going to come back and show everybody, now I'm past the injury. Not only am I really good, but I've come back from the injury. Tears it again. I think when he comes back, I haven't looked this up, but I think it will be 27, maybe 26, 27. The point is, nobody's going to hire a guy. No one's going to sign a player in Europe for a top team at 27, 28, especially with 2 ACL injuries. And I say all that to say, how does that affect Ricky? Does he say, hey, I'm an MLS lifer now? That's fine. I'm going to be the best player in MLS history, and I'm going to be motivated to do that. Or does Ricky say, hey, my MLS, my European dreams are over. It doesn't mean that much to me to win another MLS Cup. I don't know Ricky's mindset. I'm just throwing that out there, saying that he had a big goal to fight for. He had a big, there was a big apple for him to take a bite of right there. And the same with Gabriel Peck. After 2024, a lot of Europeans were looking at him, and I think they all wisely said, we're going to take one more look, give him a few more months, and he hasn't followed up with 2024 either. So that European dream is, these guys play very hard in MLS, and MLS is not a league where you come over and slum it anymore like players used to do in the past. It's a legitimate league. It's one of the top 10 leagues in the world, clearly. But a lot of the guys, especially the guys that come from Europe and even South America, they want to go to the young guys. They want to go to Europe. They want to play on a big team there. And maybe that dream has passed Ricky by. It'd be interesting to see what his motivation is like.
It's interesting you said some of those points, Kevin, because I always tell Ananda about an alternate universe in which Ricky doesn't get injured. He wins MLS Cup in a dazzling display, and the European team comes in to the Galaxy with an offer that's just too damn good to refuse, and then they get the bag for Ricky, and they're able to retool around Gabriel Peck and Joseph Painsil, but we'll never know. That's an alternate universe, and a multiverse. We'll never know. In this multiverse, what we do know is something that you've mentioned a couple times is Galaxy are going to be missing a couple of big pieces. Nascimento is out. He's questionable. He pulled up in training, and Greg let us know he's questionable. Definitely Painsil's out. Glessons is out. We already saw that Box was out. Peter Stradlin and Gressel's out for Minnesota. But if you had to guess with what the Galaxy currently have, who do you got in your starting lineup?
Wow, these are your guys' predictions?
Yeah.
Yes.
These are ours. Pretty close.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe Yoshida be in there. I think I would put Yoshida in there over Garces right now.
Okay.
Garces again is a super talented player, but I think he needs a little more seasoning, and I think that's what what happens in training, and that maybe they do run him out there. Maybe the 2 weeks in training. He's calmed down a little bit. He seems to rely on his speed way too much, and he gets himself in bad positions because of that. I think Yoshida is the more solid defender, but maybe this is the time to roll the dice a little bit. Cerrillo's played really well. I think Tommy definitely will be in there. It's interesting, they moved Peck to the other side with Paintsill out, which is his better side and the side that he really prefers. But should he maybe be on the other side, and because then he's going to have to make that transition when Paintsill comes back, and he's going to have to go back to the other side. Is that difficult?
Interesting.
So you guys like the 4-1-4-1, or is that just it gets Sanabria in there, that's for sure.
Yeah, the Sanabria thing, I think we've had this debate a lot, and it's funny that, at least in my opinion, from my eye test, I'm not talking about the formation, but I'm talking about specifically, I feel like the games where the Galaxy have played the best was a midfield trio of Sanabria, Winder, and Cerrillo. I think about the Charlotte game. I think there was a CCC match in there as well. Royce has to be in there just because of his class, his composure in the final third, but Sanabria, I think, has been an underutilized piece, and U22 guy, I mean, the team has invested a lot in him, and he's looked pretty good. He brings a different skill set and attributes and winning duels in midfield and crashing the box late. And especially when you're a team, especially at home, you want to be on the front foot. Sanabria is a guy that can do that. I'm interested to see what the midfield selection will be for Greg.
And I'm interested to see the substitutions. If the Galaxy are up by multiple goals, in the second half, does Royce come off? Do some of these guys come off because they know they're going to Toluca? Does Greg push that? How much does he try to get out of some guys like Royce? Maybe you're resting Yoshida for Toluca. Maybe that's a good decision. How much does Toluca figure in this? Because my gosh, if you're looking ahead to Toluca and you make a mistake with this game and you lose it, all of a sudden Toluca doesn't matter all that much anymore. But at the same token, if you win this game and then you go to Toluca and you get blown out, that's not a good look either. I actually think for whatever reason, the Galaxy play really well against Liga MX teams. I mean, you look at what they did in Leagues Cup, as bad of a season they had last year, right? They made the semifinals of the Leagues Cup, which got them into the CCC in the first place. So, hopefully they go to Mexico with a little bit of a swagger, a little bit of a set of confidence, because they've really punched above their weight against Mexican teams.
Yeah. And something that we mentioned is that they showed that they can hang with Toluca in the Campeones Cup. I mean, they should have won that game. Just a late defensive collapse denied them.
It's probably because they don't play
last year.
It's probably because they don't play in a low block and they actually come out to play, right? So it'll be interesting.
No, they won't. That's one thing that I've talked to a number of people about that, and MLS teams are playing. The rosters aren't as deep, first of all, in MLS as they are in Liga MX. So there's only certain things you can do. You can't necessarily go toe-to-toe with every team you play because your roster is not deep enough. So the low block seems to be something a lot of teams will rely on against the Galaxy. Look, we don't have to win pretty. We just have to win. That's what they want to do. Mexican teams are got totally different. I think they want to play an attractive style of soccer. I think there's there's some pride on the line with the Mexican teams playing that kind of style. No, Toluca is not going to sit back in a low block. They're going to come out and play the Galaxy. Right. And it's an opportunity for the Galaxy to say, hey, look what we can do given a chance. Like if someone plays us, look what we can do.
Yeah, no, what is it? They accuse Mourinho of anti-football. But no, that's an interesting point. Like if someone actually goes ahead and plays us straight up, hey, this is actually us, right? We do have another super chat by Adam. He says, gracias. Well, primero, gracias, Adam. Thank you so much. He says, can I get your thoughts? If anything will occur in the case the Galaxy is bottom of the standings before the World Cup for that pause on MLS. Adam, I don't know if you saw when we were with Jake Zivin last show, but he brought up an interesting point about how there's going to be around 18 or 19 games for teams after the World Cup. So I really don't think that anything is going to happen even if the results aren't there. Anything is going to happen before the World Cup, I think. And to Kevin's point, I think Greg is in his job for the year. I just think that is what it is, unless results get just so bad that the fans actually make themselves heard again. But I don't think we're there yet. But I think Kevin, you want to hit us up on that one?
No, you just made the point of the day, which is if the fans, say something. I mean, the Galaxy did not want to get rid of Chris Klein. They had just signed him to a multi-year contract as well. They did not want to get rid of Jovan Karowski. He was a Galaxy lifer. He was a guy that had the confidence of ownership. Somebody very high up in AEG at one point came to me, and after the whole Chris Klein thing was done, and said, I didn't have I had to keep him. I had to re-sign him. And the idea of they weren't thinking outside the box. They were committed to Chris and committed to Jovan. It was the fans, the fan boycott, the banners flying over the stadium. Soccer is different from any other sport. And when you look at AEG, yes, they've been in soccer a long time, but they own part of the Lakers. They own the Kings. They own other things around the world. There is no sport like soccer where it's a club, right? It's not a team, right? It's a club, and the club is owned and run by the fans, the supporters, and it's not like the Rams. And so when the supporters said, "This is our club, we're boycotting, we're not going to games, we're going to fly a banner around, we're going to boo the team because we're unhappy with the direction of our club," the Galaxy had to act. And so again, I'm not. I want to make it clear, I'm not calling for Greg Vanney's head. I think it's too early. But
yeah. Right.
As you said, if things start to slide and the fans start to say, hey, you know what? We're not going to games again. We're going to boycott. We don't like the direction of this team. That changes the whole equation. So when you talk about if the fans get involved, if the Galaxy were to lose this game and there would be some boos, all of a sudden it changes the equation a little bit. The fans aren't going to have the patience that I have sitting up in the press box saying, oh, well, come out and see what happens next week. No, the fans aren't going to have that kind of, they're the ones paying the money.
Rob, what was I? What was I telling you in the car ride to the game the other day? The biggest threat to a capitalist democratic system is non-participation, right? So it does take like something like the fans,
Those
like a
dollars,
boycott.
y'all.
That's exactly it. So I think Kevin brings up a really astute point, and I think it will need to come to that at some point if that were to happen. So.
Yeah, and you, like Kevin's said a couple times, like, you know, about Greg, like I as well, I'm not advocating right now for
Right,
open
exactly.
revolution or
Yeah.
fan action, but you know, like that is the best way to have your voice heard. So if it does come to that, like, you know, and the fans decide that, like, hey, y'all know me, power to the people.
Well, you know, you're the fan point, and this is a fan podcast, and I'm not a fan. I'm not allowed to be a fan, so don't make that mistake. But I will tell you that when we were reporting on the fan boycott, there was that one game where, if you remember, people gathered in the plaza out front, and there was a sort of little demonstration. I was getting calls in real time from Galaxy executives saying, you know, you just tweeted out there were 200 fans. There's not 200 supporters. There's probably only 140. And, you know, you said that they were chanting Klein out. They weren't saying that. We're watching, and my point being is they were very concerned about not only the actions of the supporters, but what we were reporting in social media and other, you know, in the newspaper and on the podcast. They were really monitoring that. If you think that they weren't paying attention, that it didn't have an impact, because some executives came out and said, you know, well, we didn't notice that. No, boy, they noticed, and they were following. We got crowd estimates from the police. The police said this is how many demonstrators there are. The Galaxy just were livid about the quoted misreporting. You know, it was the police that told us what it was. My point being that they paid very close attention to all that stuff, all the stuff that the fans were doing. And that's why there was a change made, because they were very concerned about it. Mm-hmm. The fans have more power than they think.
Oh no, for sure.
100%.
I think they're still slowly starting to understand that. But, you know, but just like you said, I mean, a good way to mitigate some of that and to make sure that doesn't spread or get any bigger is getting a result against Minnesota this weekend. You know, they do have a couple of weapons, even though, you know, Hamas is out. I mean, Kelvin Yeboah is a horse. You know, he can score some goals, and Joaquin Pereira can set him up. And when Drake Calendar's on his day, he can have a blinder as well. So when we do something on the show called Fill in the Blank. So I'm going to hit you with one. For the Galaxy to win this match, they have to ... I'm
going to say they need a clean sheet.
Hey,
interesting. Yep,
I like it. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's how else are you going to feel good? I mean, you get a clean sheet, most likely you're gonna get at least a point, right? So, I mean, you want that feel good factor going into Toluca. Get that clean sheet, baby. Get that clean sheet.
And I don't say that because I think they're going to win 1-0. I think that clean sheet means that they're playing their kind of game, that they have a lot of possession, that they're playing that short passing game, that they're completing a lot of passes, that the ball's in the Minnesota end most of the game. That's what the clean sheet means to me. I mean, clean sheet means to me 1 or 2 shots on goal, kind of the way LAFC plays. You know, when they're playing really well, Hugo Lloris makes no saves. I can't tell you how many games they've had where he hasn't made a save and he got a clean sheet. And it's like, you know, you didn't even have to dress out. You could have just watched from the from the stands. You didn't touch the ball. That's what I mean. That's why I think when I say they need a clean sheet, because they need to play that style of game. They need to play a possession-based game where they're in control. If they start trying to mix and match and chase the game, then I think they're in trouble. And you know, Josh talks a lot about how many times the Galaxy concede the first goal on their record, and it's atrocious. Mm-hmm. Yep. So a clean sheet means they didn't fall behind. They controlled the game. They played their game. They didn't have to chase the game, play Minnesota style. So yeah, a clean sheet doesn't mean they win 1-0. It means that they played their style of game and they're going
to win. We have more super chats. We have Eva Super One with super chat. Gracias, Eva Super One. He says, "Good points, Kevin. Come on more often."
Oh man, we're gonna have to throw out more.
You already know.
Money to Kev.
You already know.
More TAM money to Kevin. God. Okay. All right,
Yeah,
super.
I mean,
Gotcha.
we're gonna have to throw more celebrity matches. And then we also have another super chat from Adam. Gonna ask us, Adam. He says, any predictions for the Champions Cup versus Toluca? If you had to guess, what happens in this one, Kevin? What happens in this one?
I think they lose in Toluca, maybe not a rout, but maybe by a comfortable margin, and then they come back to Dignity Health Sports Park, and Toluca does play their style of game, but park the bus a little bit, maybe get a little more conservative. I don't see the Galaxy getting past Toluca, but having said that, again, they punch above their weight against Mexican teams, and I think that's because Mexican teams come out and play them. Whether Toluca will say, hey, you know what, the best way to beat these guys is not to play their game and to just sort of go conservative. I don't think they will.
Right.
But Toluca's a better. I guess what I'm trying to say is Toluca is clearly the better team, and Toluca should win, and they should win comfortably. But the Galaxy, I mean, the way they play against Mexican teams is, I don't know why it's so good. I guess again because Mexican teams come out and play them straight up, and the Galaxy, are very successful. If the Galaxy go there, missing a number of pieces, though, it's going to be tough because of the altitude and because of the fixture crunch they're dealing with right now.
Yeah, and without your best defender, that's tough.
Is it, TM says 8,000 feet is insane. Is it really 8,000 feet?
It is.
Kevin, you said you've been there, right?
Yeah, it's way up there.
Papa, Ananda, is it below or above Quito?
Oh, that you would know better than me. You're the Equa.
I don't know what the altitude of Quito is, but I mean, I've been in Quito, and that's man, it's really hard to play up there. I mean, that's why the Ecuadorian national team used to have that old advantage.
I don't know about
they don't play that much
but,
up there anymore.
I don't know about the stadium, but Quito is 9,300 feet. So
well, and so Toluca, I believe, is higher than Azteca.
Yeah, someone just said it in the chat.
Damn.
There's two.
They better bring the oxygen tanks and stuff.
Apparently, there's two ways to approach that. I've been told. One is you go to the venue at altitude several days ahead of time, and you try to get accustomed to it. And if you do there 3 or 4, 5, 6 days, you can get accustomed to it, and it will have less of an effect. The Galaxy do not have that luxury. The other thing is you get up there less than 24 hours before your event, you play your game, and you get out of there. And again, you're still going to feel it, but the effects are less because your lungs are still dealing with some of the oxygen that you brought from sea level. So you don't feel it as it's going to affect them, and it's going to have an impact on the game. But you can alleviate some of the concerns by just coming up the day of the game, playing the game, and getting out of there.
Rob,
Ananda. Yeah.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, but going back to this Minnesota game though, do you agree with Kevin? They need a clean sheet to win this, or are you thinking something else?
No, I think they need. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, that was to Rob. I want to see if he agrees with you or not.
No, I mean you're not gonna lose if you get a clean sheet, right? I mean you're in good shape. I mean, yeah. I mean the premise is sound, right? And like Kevin said, Josh always talks about the Galaxy conceding first, right? If they have conceded first, then most likely they will have lost. So again, the reasoning is sound. It's simple but brilliant. It's like get a shutout. That's a recipe for a win.
Yeah, I have the slightly opposite view in that I feel like every time I've seen the Galaxy this year, when they don't score first, they get flustered. Like they tend to fluff their lines a bit more. And they remember, Rob, we always say like the Galaxy just don't execute enough. But when they do execute, you see games like Charlotte and honestly NYCFC, which they should have won that game if it wasn't for a silly red card in the second half. So I just think they need to score first. Like they need to score early and first, they need to execute early because the longer the game goes 0-0, I think for me that's a recipe for the guys try to play hero ball. Someone like a Mickey Yamane or the left or Julian Aude tries to jump the attack, and then we get hit on the counter. We've seen that a couple times, right? Against Dayon, like Galaxy were in control the first half. All it took was 2 plays. The first one, Mitrovic made a decent save. The second one, past the keeper, and that was the recipe for disaster. So I think it's probably a combination of both, but I see the offensive side of this.
combination. We got another super chat from Adam. Man, Adam,
thank you so much.
Adam
man.
is lighting it up.
Man,
He is.
Yeah, Adam is lighting it up, man. Man, that's love. Gracias. He says, I have hope Galaxy can win versus Toluca. A draw one game, win game two. Unsure about the MLS teams besides Nashville. I do not have another MLS team advancing. Yeah, I mean,
I just want to see an El Tráfico semifinal. That's what I want to see. To be honest.
Oh, that would be nuts. I think that would be the most consequential and most important El Tráfico in the history. Well, Ananda, you have some win probabilities, and then let's wrap this one up so we can let Kevin go. Go ahead and let us know what you got.
Yes, this is what Opta has right now. So 43% for the Galaxy win probability, 30.4 for Minnesota at the moment, which is kind of high for a road team. Some pre-match insights as you guys in chat go ahead and start dropping your score predictions, and we'll give ours just in a second. But so a couple of stats here. Minnesota have won just one of their last 5 MLS games. The Galaxy have won their last 2 games when Gabriel Peck has scored. So again, we need to get him off the score sheet. And the last one is there have been at least 3 goals in the last 9 games between LA Galaxy and Minnesota United. So, Rob, there will be goals in this game, according to history, but we'll see.
Well, let's hope that they're on one
no
side.
Shut up. So no clean sheet. Oh, great. Thanks.
Unless the Galaxy win like 3-0, right? And then they do get the clean sheet. But speaking of score lines, it is receipt times. Kevin, this is the last one we have for you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, it's receipt time. The Galaxy face Minnesota. Yeah, no problem, man. I mean, like I said, open invitation. Come through to the carne asada whenever. You're certainly invited. But this is not a must win, but they kind of have to win. It's a 6-pointer. Greg talked about how important it was. If you had to call it, do the Galaxy win the day here, and by what score line?
I'm gonna go 3-0.
3-0, right on. That's a good day at the office. And I hope you mean the Galaxy, right?
Yes. Well, I already picked the shutout. No, I think Minnesota's missing too many key pieces, and I think if the Galaxy go up, Minnesota starts chasing the game. I think the Galaxy pretty good in a counterattack. So I see it being a tight game through like 65, 70 minutes, and the Galaxy get at least one late goal. So I think it's going to be 3-0.
Cool.
All right. Well, Ananda, I went first last time, so that means you.
I'm right behind Kevin. I'm going to go 2-0, but I think we're going to score earlier. So it's going to be very similar to Charlotte, where we put the game sort of, 2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline in soccer, right? But we put the game early. Hopefully that allows us to rest. So sub everyone at like 50, 60, get them on for Toluca, and then the kids
I love that.
Go out to and show the heart and show the pride, the passion that they need. Because remember, guys like Tucker Lepley, who, by the way, threw on an amazing event last week, these guys want to play. Like, some of these kids are dying and seething chomping at the bit to play. So hopefully they get that opportunity last 30 minutes of the game. But 2-0 for me.
Hey, it's interesting, guys, because we were all at this event for Tucker, and I saw a couple of comments in chat earlier talking about how that 2024 team really came together and really started winning because they started coming together as a team. Let me tell you, if you weren't at this event, then you didn't see what we saw in that a lot of these players pulled up for Tucker and showed their love for Tucker in this event and what he was trying to do by showing up for him. And, honestly, they didn't really have to do that. And there was quite a few of these players out there, and some people from the Galaxy organization were out there as well, not because they had to be or were working, because they were out there to support as well. So,
they came to see Kevin, Rob. That's what it was.
Yeah, I went to see Kevin as well, personally, and then I had the burrito, and then it turned into a love story between me and the burrito. But anyway, I will give a 3-0 as well.
So we're all united. 3-0. You talk about Tucker, and it's really interesting. He told a story, if you remember, about having the coffee machine in his room. Right during the I think it was at the tournament out in the desert, and all the players would come in for the coffee and they would stay and talk, and Maya Yoshida would tell stories from back in the day, and it was this team bonding thing, and we haven't seen the results of that so far. I don't think this team looks like it's bonded all that much, but that has potential to really be a kind of a game-changing thing. I mean, the more the players and you're right, a lot of players came to that event, and it was pretty cool to watch, to see the way they got along with each other. I covered a Marlins team in 2003 when they won the World Series, and the thing that was really great about that team is there were some really good players on that team, but there was also 3 or 4 guys who knew their roles. They were backup catchers and backup infielders, and they did things on the bench that fans didn't see, but kept the starters loose and built that bonding. And they knew their role they weren't going to play 162 games. Their role is to keep the starters loose. And I say that because Tucker Lempley is not going to play 90 minutes every week. But Tucker Lempley if Tucker Lempley is the guy who brings this team together through some of those things with the coffee pot stuff, that's really important. And you saw that at the event when these players came out for him. And if that's what Tucker's contribution is to the team, it could be really, really valuable.
No, absolutely. I mean, and like I mentioned, you saw these players come out for Tucker, and then they go out into training over the last 2 weeks, and they start to solidify that bond, start to understand each other a little bit more and more. Right. And that's where these relationships that we always talk about happen. And one of the relationships we're happy to have is with you, Kevin Baxter. Thank you so much again for joining us. Yeah, please let the folks know where they can find you real quick. And thank you.
Well, they can find me at Starbucks most of the time, but other than that, on social media, it's kbaxter11. That's Twitter and Blue Sky, and then latimes.com.
Y'all heard it. And is that Roy Kent over your shoulder?
Roy Kent is in this room somewhere. I have all kinds of Ted Lasso stuff.
There he is. There he is. Roy Kent.
And look, we have a big panda. We have a big panda here.
Hey, there we go.
There he is.
Yeah, because like I mentioned, I'm rewatching Ted Lasso right now, and so like during the show, I was like, man, I must be hallucinating. I must be watching that show too much because I see Roy Kent just floating above Kevin's shoulder.
Oh, back there. No, that's actually Diego Valeri from Portland. Portland. Yeah, it does look like Roy Kent now that I think about it. Yeah.
Oh man, well, Diego Valeri, you have a Halloween costume courtesy of me. Thank you so much. K-Max, thank you so much, man. Again, guys. Welcome back anytime.
Oh, thank you very much. We'll talk to you guys later. See you Saturday.
Right, see ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. See you soon. Oh yeah, we'll see you on Saturday. Yeah,
we'll see you on Saturday.
All right. So Ananda, real quick before we wrap this one up, main point you picked out from K-Max.
There's a lot. There's a lot. I think we've underscored the point about April. I think there's going to be a lot of decisions that will be thought about and conversations to be had depending on how results go in the next 2 months. But I think it's not a must-win on paper, but it's so close, Rob. Like the team needs momentum. Kevin brought up the word momentum, and I think I've used that word also on this pod. I think it's super important for you need to see this team needs to see everything that they're working on, not only in training, but you just talked about off the pitch, Rob, that camaraderie, that team bonding. Like, what a slap in the face if you don't get the results on the pitch. So you need the result.
Now you need your reward from that, right?
You need the reward. You need the affirmation. You need the carrot that's dangling on the stick. You need to go ahead and grab it and see that sort of finish line,
so
right? You need to see some affirmation. So I think that's what this team needs, and that builds confidence that you're gonna need against Toluca in 2 legs. That is going to be a 180-minute game. You're going to be without one of your best attackers and one of your best defenders. So how does this team come together as a unit, along with the fans, of course, like we're all a team? How does that team come together and face it? Like it's not do or die, but it's like this is the time when guys need to step up and show us what they're made of. And I think the fans will react to that. Not only just the results, but just performances. Kevin talked about he needs to see a performance as much as he needs to result. And I 100% agree. That's what we've been preaching on the show the last couple episodes. So Saturday will be the first time that we get to see that, hopefully. And hopefully this 2-week break, hopefully like I come out of that game and I look at him like, yep, that 2-week break did a world of good for this team.
I would love to go out of that game and just, you remember how irritated and how disappointed it was after Not even
SJC?
just the Portland one, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I would love to
Especially
be able to
SJC.
go home and write a different kind of article and about how they took advantage of their chances and how they took advantage of a Minnesota team that's down, and that, hey, we're finally starting to see these relationships build, right? That's what I want to see, and I hope we get to see that. And moreover, the last home game, there were some boos. I want to see some cheers from the fans. I would love to see them getting behind this team. So all that to say, next on this humble little pod, we've been talking about it a lot. The Galaxy need to get a result against Minnesota on Saturday, April 4th at 7:30 p.m. Remember, it is Landon Donovan Bobblehead Night. K-Bax talked about talking to Landon and those stories. So if you have a chance, pick up his book as well. Get there early as well. If not, you will miss a bobblehead and you'll be really sad. Then you'll have to buy one on Mercari for like $400. On Monday, April 6th, we'll bring you our match reaction, win, lose, or draw to the match happening this weekend at the Digs. And we'll be joined by MLS.com writer and Hamas's cousin, Andy Diosa. That same night, we'll also bring you a CONCACAF Champions Cup Toluca preview. And then a week from tonight, we'll be breaking down everything that happened in leg one of the Galaxy versus Toluca and bring you a quick look at the weekend's match, the Galaxy versus Austin, on Saturday, April 11th at 11:30 a.m. We'll see you at brunch, Guneros. We'll see you at brunch. Let's make it live. Anyway, and on to that, pretty much wraps up the show tonight, man. Anything else to add?
I just want to say thanks to everyone in chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for the love and the super chats and the comments and the support and you guys talking amongst each other. Again, Kevin knows this team inside and out, and it was good to hear some of his thoughts. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you're catching this on replay or you caught us late, go ahead and rewind to about 15, 20 minutes into this podcast, and that's where the interview will start. I will have the chapter markers per the usual, but just wanted to say thank you to everyone in chat. We love y'all, and we will talk to you again on Monday after the Galaxy's 10-0 win against Minnesota United.
Woo-hoo! Oh boy, that would be something else. Ananda, apparently pandas are fake. I didn't know that. But we're gonna have to ask TM more about that on another show, maybe one of these Lacuna After Dark shows. But guys, thank you so much for being here with us. We do appreciate it. If you were here for the first time and you liked what you heard, you know what to do. Like, subscribe. Thank you so much for finding us in this huge earth, and thank you to Lord Algorithm for having you find us. Guneros, thank you so much for the content support and the love. Y'all are why we do this shit, man. So and with that, there's only one thing left to say, right?
Dale.
Jesus.